ladies and gentlemen. Liven up your minds. Speak to the powers within you. Coming up next to the stage, Mr. Ross Charles Rastafari.
Start.
Use the other mic. I want to hear you.
The other mic.
Use the other mic.
Use both mics.
Yeah.
Use both. There you go. Good job.
I will tell you this, but a lot of people might not believe it. I'm not really a crowd person. But they call it Night of Reasoning. And I do a lot of speeches like this from time to time, and sometimes you kind of feel pressure from the crowd, like, what does this guy have to say? But I'm going to tell you a joke first. There was a Jamaican gentleman and his son that came to America for the first time, and they have never seen an elevator. So when they went to the mall for the first time, they see the door open, so they thought it was just a wall being open, and it was magic. So you find that the dad stood there, and the son was wondering, and he saw this woman in a wheelchair that went into the elevator to close. So they watched the number as it goes up and it goes up. Right after that, it stopped and the number comes down. And a beautiful woman walked out. And the dad looked over to his son and said, "Go get your mother." What I want to say is that when you change the things you look at change. And you find that I've seen in life where there's such an enormous amount of things that is happening in this world today, and one thing everybody seems to be on the top of their mind: what is going on? You find that young people are trying to find an identity. And because there's no such, let me just start with the older folks, and I hope it doesn't really affect you when I say old, because in my culture, old means graceful and wise.
Nice. Yeah.
In America, it seems like it's an insult. And one of the things that I've seen in America when in our culture, older people is the backbone of our existence.
Yeah.
Whatever knowledge they have is always there for us. In America, they take older folks and put them in a home, so all that knowledge gets stuck away. So you have to keep going through the transition of learning on your own. Some people make it, some people don't. And you find that younger generation today are seeking for something, but they're seeking for something that is the unknown. And that's why they're trying to find avenues and ways of trying to identify with things. And when you cannot identify with something, it becomes more like a smoke. You can see it, but you can't touch it. And it can mean so many things. It can form all kind of shapes. And shapes of smoke can become elusive, where it can even become a cloud, and it can provide water in rain sometimes. But the rain falling sometimes makes a river. And when you look at life, it can be like a river. It starts from a simple stream, which sometimes is a child. The destiny of the river normally finds its way to the ocean. No matter what the river does, even if it's stagnant for a while, its mission is to get to the ocean. Some people are like that. They're stuck there, and leaves fall into them, sediments fall into them, and they become stagnant where they never move. And the rest of their life, they just become dried up, becomes mud. But the river that seeks to find its way to the ocean never stops. And the people who become successful always find its way to the ocean. You find there's rapids at times where the fall can be very deep, but the water always exists, no matter what happens. Some people, when they get to that rapid, they become afraid, and they venture off to the side. never knowing the fact that when they get there, there's a smoother pathway for them to go. But I could say many, many things. But one thing I like to do, for me not to be so nervous, I would prefer somebody ask me a question. Go ahead.
Do you get it a lot that people say, I really wish I sounded like you do?
I don't know, honestly.
You got one.
A few times, yes.
Okay, there you go. Because I was going to say, it's me and...
Why do you ask such a question?
Maybe this might sound weird, but
No, just say, you must always speak your mind, never be afraid.
I love the way you talk. It makes me feel good on the inside. It could have been all you and I would have just gone with it.
That's fine, thank you.
I don't know how that's a question, but...
I think people, you have to find, everybody, when you look at, there's two things in life that people have to seek for themselves before answer. And you see, everybody want to reach for the stars. But you see, once you leave Earth's surface, you lose gravity. And once you get up into space, you have no control. But when you go into the depth of yourself, which is called the abyss, that is where you find what you're looking for. Everybody is trying to find something outside of themselves. They run away from themselves. And the things that they run from is exactly what they run to. And people are afraid to face the things that is them. And anytime you're afraid of yourself, I mean, you answer that question for yourself. Because no matter what you do, like Bob Marley says, you can be running and you're running, but you can never run from yourself. Some people are afraid to look at the mirror. Now they even make, some of the cars that they made, I think BMW have it. They have these nice glass that when, especially when a woman's sitting there, it enhances her beauty.
Yeah.
But she never think about when the time when she has to come out. I don't think she's gonna come out of the elevator looking the way that man wanted to look. So you kind of have to. People are so afraid. The thing that really affects them is fear. Shakespeare said, "A coward died twice before he sees death." And when your imagination runs to a point where it starts to create or form something, it becomes you. And when you have to be able to become that, you're not yourself anymore. And sometimes you find even relationships, whether it's mother, father, or something, sometimes parents want to do so much for their children. And sometimes they don't have the time to spend with them. So they give them the next best thing. Sometimes children take things for granted, and it causes a conflict. I remember when I was growing up, we used to make toys from just about everything. We used to get lemon and push it through the sticks, and we used to get like a milk box and make trucks from it. We used to do so many different things. Now everybody can go to Toys R Us and just buy something. So that appreciation of making something where you can share with somebody is not there anymore. It's easily accessible. And once it's accessible, it has no meaning anymore, because you just throw it away. And if you notice, people are starting to become that. So the meaningless of life becomes their whole existence. And after a while, there's nothing. Yes?
I think you just beautifully crystallized that, and I think the biggest challenge is everybody's afraid to face the parts of themselves they don't like, and we want to look outside for validation. But is that an American thing, or is that a human thing, especially the world we live in with technology?
I'm not trying to bash America, but I think it is.
I think it is.
For the mere fact.
I think it's American.
It is.
America's not perfect.
You see, for the mere fact that I even find it in my countries right now. They say it takes a village to grow a child. And even in Africa, some of the villages disappearing. And it shows you exactly what is happening. You see a lot of young kids today, it's not that they're rude or they're whatever you might want to call them. They just don't have a clue. And there's nothing consistent to really point them into certain directions. And if there's no consistency, there can't be no validation. And sometimes as grown-ups, sometimes you find a lot of grown-ups nowadays want to be just like their children. They use certain terminology so they become equal. The Bible says, children shall be having children. It's not like young children. will be having children. It's just people, their mentality is still like a child. So it's not like a 6-year-old gonna have a child. Because you find people leave high school, they do the same thing. They go to college. Some of them might just fall through the crack and become something, force them into become something other than what they want to be. But they increase in age, but their level of maturity is still the same. They do the same thing over and over. You can sometimes sit down and talk about something constructive. People are afraid. They're so afraid of the things that is so important. When you watch television, you watch all of these different things. When you want to find a husband in the dark, you know what I mean? When you want to, and they find things to entertain you. And after a while, you become to a point where, have you ever just hate a song, you find yourself singing it because you hear it so often? It's the same. It's the same thing. That the human consciousness sometimes becomes like a magnet. And it will just keep just tapping into things and just stuck to it. And if someday you don't wake yourself up to shake it off, you are attracting the wrong things. And there are more wrong things right now. But there are good things out there. But it is so simple. The simplicity of life is sometimes people are looking for something enormous. It's just like a rose. If you grab a rose too hard, the petals fall off. But you know what happened? They're prickles. So it's just telling you the next time you pick me, just be careful. And a lot of people don't really know those kind of things. And if you can treat people in that manner, even when you leave tonight, for a moment, you know what I mean? There's one thing in relationships. Sometimes you have arguments, but you must never go to bed angry. If you cannot face something and talk about it, you're not ready for a relationship. Whether it's for your children. There's a lot of times children are so angry because there's so many different things that they're going through. It could be early menopause or womanopause or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? But
That doesn't exist.
But there's a lot of things that is so simple that if you just stop for a moment, once in a while, just take a break from everything that you know. Just walk barefoot on the sand or do something. Talk to somebody that you've never talked before, because some of the people that you don't think have the answer, they have it all. The homeless, the drunkard, they have it. And sometimes you just listen to them, believe me. If you just sometimes listen to a mad person saying something, just sit there. It's amazing what they say. You'll be surprised. But society kind of have like a bashment on things where they suppress things because they want you to be a victim of circumstances. And once you fall a victim of that, then you becomes nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yes?
Did Ahmed go back to Trinidad?
I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't seen him for a long time.
Okay.
Yes?
This one?
Yes?
Okay. So I'm able to go a little bit.
No, you can go as deep as you want.
Alright, cool. Just kind of a weird question, but
No question is weird.
yeah, why do people like us come to things like this? Like, what is our reason? We each think we kind of get a reason. We know a reason why we come here, but it's like, I just get this feeling like, I'd like to hear it from someone else as well.
You see, people are always looking for something. Sometimes people are bored with things that seems exciting. And sometimes like to try different things. Because your society is always like that. You always have to keep doing something. Most American things that if they're not doing something, they're bored. And you find that coming to something, some of the simplest things, you learn so much. Sometimes some people are afraid to come because it exposes them to who they are. So they keep going, running and running. But like it says, you can never run from yourself, no matter what you do, until you confront yourself and deals with it. Sometimes, as a woman, sometimes you must just stand up in front of the mirror, naked, and just say, this is me. And see the difference. Once in a while, you must do that. Sometimes just go home and just lie down on the carpet. This is me. Once you start to learn to accept yourself, that's who you are. And you realize that people start to accept you. And a person might say, oh, you're so beautiful, and you start to look, is that really you? Because you start to accept yourself. Once you reject yourself, everything is rejectable. Yeah.
So, didn't you play soccer a long time ago in the teams?
Long time.
Yeah. What team did you play on, bro?
I used to play for my country since I was going to high school.
Wow.
I got a scholarship to go to America, and I just didn't like school. Because the school system that we have here, it's more of it dictates to you. With the way we school, you're writing, so you're more expressive. Here, things have been kind of put to you in such a way where you lie, and your lie become acceptable. For an example, I know that Christopher Columbus does not discover America. It's a kind of American speech. But if you go to college and you have to write that, and you're supposed to be truthful, but you're lying. And I just didn't really like those kind of things. Not that you're gonna not go to school now. Yes.
What is change? If everything's always changing, how do I find me?
I don't think anything changed. Everything is what it is. You see, scientists talk about they discover. There's nothing that ever been discovered. They only identify because everything already existed. You find that I don't even be when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. That is destiny. It's not change. He's just waiting for that moment to become what he is. And you find that sometimes people utilize that they want to change, but people never change. You find that, for one example, you find some Jamaicans who come to America, and after a while the one becomes Americans. And when they speak, you think they're Americans. They can't even speak one Jamaican language. But the minute they get pissed off, that whole American language just becomes elusive. And they talk words that they never talked before. So is that change, people becomes more adaptable to things. And that's what evolution is, you know what I mean? You adapt to certain things, but yourself will never change. I mean, even if you want to take a sex change, you only do it because you either want to rebel or you want to do something. But in your mentality, you're still what you are. So you have to profess. That's why you find men who are that they should profess because they have to be twice a woman. So change is never, it's just more adaptable. Yes?
When you lose so much of yourself, whether it's a person, place, or a thing in the closet, how do you find that? It's the best way to find that self-acceptance again.
Have you ever go to the store and forget your credit card and you start to go back in your mind where you left it? That's why you have to go right back and see where you travel and what you need to fix. Sometimes people take bad experience as a downfall where they kind of try to tell themselves there's nothing, but you have to use it as an experience. Some of the best, when it comes to religious preachers and stuff, is pimps and drug dealers and prostitutes. When they're speaking, they have no fear because they've been to hell and back. When they express themselves, they don't have to come in and they just say it like it is. And that is one of the reasons why it's the fear. It's that fear, who is looking or who is thinking. Because if you're an asshole, you don't think you can give a shit. And some people, you're trying to give candy, it won't work. You have to give because that shit can become manure and make something grow. You know what I mean? So and that's what you are. So if you allow yourself to be a certain way, you will always be that. You can never change that. If you keep on doing the things that you always done, you'll keep on being what you always been. Yes.
You keep talking about fear and stuff. Like personally, I'm pretty fearless too. It's kind of crazy cool. But how can you escape that fear, or not escape it, just like face it? How do you find the courage within yourself?
When you say fearless, meaning you'll do anything.
I won't do anything, but I'm not afraid of anything.
Are you married? Girlfriend? Have you ever seen a girl sometime that make your heart just skips a beat? That's a fear. So you find find that you might be able to jump out of a plane without a parachute and somebody can put it to you and you put it and becomes a daredevil. And everybody says, oh, you're great. What is that little thing? Those are the things that sometimes makes you become that person, to show that you're just human. Because a lot of times you want to do things just to rebel. A lot of kids you see today, they do all kind of crazy stuff. And it's all they want to do is just to find something. So they just flip the coin and rebel. And if you really talk to them sometime and ask them a question, sometimes they burst out into tears because they're trying to find something. They're trying to find a safe haven. And sometimes parents, sometimes you just need to sit for a moment and just talk. And children, sometimes you just need to just reach out to your parents, because no matter what happens, you see, family is the key to anything. And a lot of times when family breaks, they can be mended, but it's just how people do it. It's hard in America because you always have to constantly doing things. And sometimes parents want to do the best they can. And by giving something, it means so much to them and they just want to see you accept it. Some kids will accept it. But at the same time, greed sets in, because you see, parents want to do the things for their children and want them to live a certain way. But most parents nowadays, they used to drive in a chariot. Now it's fast car. But the parents still want to tell the person in the fast car, go slowly. And when you go slow in somebody's fast car, they can't function. So maybe if the dad take the child in a chariot and wow, and then the child take the dad in the fast car, then they have a better relationship. Because while you're talking, the car can be slowing down. And while you're talking in the chariot, it can be speeding up. You know what I mean? But the whole thing comes to is the relationship. Everything is a relationship. Every single thing in life, once you make a relationship with it, it becomes, just with animals for me, it's kind of funny because I think animals are supposed to be in the wild. Girls start to call animals babies and darling, and they call men dogs and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I don't, it's just funny for me because I think animals are animals. And if you notice the change with animals nowadays, if people could give human beings those love, God, I'm telling you, the difference.
Yeah.
It really would. You know? And it's some of the times we as human beings have this whole, because we are all a creation of God. And we have that godliness that we want to have power. And when you can tell a dog to flip and, oh, he's the greatest thing, you give him anything. But when you tell a boy, can you bring me something? And he doesn't bring it, or they get pissed off. But they never ask, why couldn't you bring it? Lots of things that cause things to be much more even is reasoning, explaining things, have patience. And I'm going to tell you, it's not a very good thing to jump to conclusion. There was this man that had a dog one time, and the dog was a baby. Dog was everything to him until he had a child. And one day he was doing something, and when he walked outside, he saw the dog with blood in his mouth. When he looked, he said, baby carriage turned over, and it has blood in it. And he just went into his house. Come on, take a gun, kill the dog. When he went to pick up the baby, there was a wolf next to it. And that's why sometimes you mustn't jump to conclusion. You must think before you act, because spontaneous reaction will make you say and do things that has never been forgotten. Unless everybody wants another question. And don't be afraid, you don't have to. No question is silly. Yes?
Do you think that organized religion is detrimental to religious teachings for any religion?
God didn't want to have no religion. Christ been to church one time. For all the Christians, Christ had only been to church one time.
Yeah.
He had been to the synagogue. But when he went to the church, he threw everything out and said, never use his father's house for marketplace. And everywhere that he preaches is on the mountaintop, side of a river or something. Being a Rastafarians, we do that a lot. We always sit and reason and talk about things. We never really see anything as being bad. If we go through certain tribulation, I think we use it as an example to excel. And when it comes to religion, There was a story that they have that says there was an elephant and there was 3 blind men they asked to wash the elephant. One then washed the side of the elephant, one then washed the foot of the elephant, one then washed the tail of the elephant. And when they asked the one who washed the foot, it was said it was the trunk of a tree. And the one that washed the tail, it said it was like a road. And the one that washed the side of the elephants, it was like a brick wall. And they were all arguing till they almost get into a fight. The elephant is God. Elephant on another side. They've never stopped to say, tell me what the rope is like or whatever. And if they're just reason, they could discover the elephant. And that's what religion is. They always hold on to things that convince them and convict them to believe. And if you don't believe in that tale, you're wrong. But at the same time, they're considering about the tale, but God is just there as an elephant and say, hey, let me just take you somewhere. But they never get on the elephant. And that's what religion is all about. You have a question, you're laughing.
I'm speechless.
Huh?
I'm utterly speechless. I had no, you're answering all the questions that I had before I even answered.
Yes.
Someone had a question, how do you stay motivated to keep going when a lot of us are going through, or the future is always unknown? So what is the drive that keeps you to continue when every next moment is unexpected?
If you're a bird, you must fly, because if you're hanging with chicken, then after a while you won't fly. You just have to just do what you do. Some people want to do additional things. There are times when you go through motions. My mother always tells me that women can tell you that they go through their period and all that kind of stuff, and they all kind of stuff, and lose their composure. But men, I don't know what we go through, but I think men more have an ego. And if you can, every ego has a need to feed, and if you can put that aside. But if you just get up and do what you normally do, you become you, and all you have to do is express it. When you have to do enormous things, like you buy a car, you gotta put on some tires. You put it on for show. When you sit in the car, you don't even see. So you want to drive and see who's looking at you. So your intention is always out. But once you have a comfortable car that makes you feel comfortable inside, that's you. But you see a hippie with a regular car, he enjoys it because wow, he's just taking him to where you want to go. But the one who profess that want all of these different things, they will drive around. They go to the mall and there's a parking spot, wait, and they will drive 20 times and finish their gas to find a parking spot so people can see them. A lot of ladies does that, coming from the gym, showing workout, and want a parking spot right next to the mall. And all they have to do is park down there and just continue exercising, but it's different.